Welcome to the Embrace Strength podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Crocker. I am an experienced trainer and active life professional. I work with people who are struggling with nagging pain to get back to the activities they love without fear of re-injury. This podcast is here to educate and provide value to you on all things health, fitness, staying active, and personal development. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the first installment of the weekly recap. So I had this great idea this morning, and I'm just going to implement it. So where this came from, well, I guess I should back up a little bit. What I'm going to start doing is one of my podcast episodes every week is going to be a weekly recap. It's going to be posted on Fridays. I'm going to record this every single Friday, and I'm going to chat with you about what went on in my week, what I'm working on, and we'll tie in some lessons and what I'm learning and all of that jazz. I want to do this every single week for 1 year. So this is the first installment of 52 of a weekly recap. And where this came from is my friend Lissa Scott. She did my branding, my pictures, all of that. She started daily vlogging. And I was like thinking to myself, this is so cool how she's like documenting her day and she's committing to it for a year. Like that is a huge commitment. And I was thinking, I was like, there's no way I could commit myself to a daily vlog, but what if I did a weekly podcast recap instead? But just the same idea, to keep track of what is happening throughout my year, not just for you guys to like learn and know what's going on behind the scenes, but for me to be able to look back on and be like, wow, this is what I was doing throughout the year. Like, I know that this time next year, I'm going to look back at these episodes and be like, this is so cool that I did this. And I know that it's going to be a big year for me in business. And I just want to do a better job of leaving breadcrumbs and capturing what happens along the way. And so that is where this came from. And I'm excited to share it with you guys. So I don't have any notes for this one because I was like, I'm just going to freeball the first episode. I have some idea of what I want to talk about, but here we go. So I'm just going to get right into it. Something that I was really intentional about this week was consuming less and focusing more on creating first. If you are a coach listening to this episode, chances are you probably create content. And if you don't create content, it's probably because you don't feel creative. And if you don't feel creative, it is because you're not giving yourself space to create. And I notice when I am doing a lot of consumption, I am definitely not as creative. Especially if I am consuming content of people in my same industry. I think a huge mistake a lot of coaches make is a lot of the content you guys consume is of other coaches' content, and then you get caught up in comparing yourself. And then that sends you into a whole mental spiral. And that's not helping you grow your business. One of the best things I did for myself last year was mute a lot of my colleagues. Like, I have a lot of my colleagues on mute, and the reason being, it messes with what I am trying to create. It messes with my creative space, and my ability to create like my own original ideas. Like, it messes with that if I'm seeing too much content of from people in my same industry and niche. So I have been very intentional about consuming less, and then the people's content that I am consuming, I'm consuming it intentionally, and it's not people in my direct industry. because there's a lot that you can learn from paying attention to what other people are doing, other entrepreneurs who aren't even in your industry. Like, you can pick up things that can give you ideas or lessons or whatever. So that is a big thing that I noticed this week. And it helped me stay focused on what I'm doing. Like, this week I was talking with my business coach about my group offering Mobility Makeover, and just kind of brainstorming with her on future launches. How can we make this better? How can we make this more refined? And she gave me we came up with an idea that I think is going to be so epic. And this is why having somebody else in your corner when you're running your business is so invaluable, because she gives me ideas or perspectives that I had not even thought of, or I know I couldn't have come up with it on my own. Like, that's invaluable. And it's not like I'm throwing the program away or anything like that. No, there's nothing wrong with the program. It is about refining it to see what resonates with who the program is for. So we are restructuring some things for the next round, and I am so stoked about it because it makes it more cohesive, and it actually does make a lot of sense. So I'm looking forward to that. That was a big thing that I worked on this week, was just like, okay, if we did restructure it to this, what would that look like? Where would I put this information? How could that feed into this? And just kind of trying to visualize and put the puzzle pieces together of how the flow of my offer ecosystem should go. And so that it has me really excited. And another thing I looked into this week, which I am so stoked about, is the potential to get my group program approved for CEUs. This would be huge. It is a possibility that I can do this, which I'm so stoked about, but I just have to look into the nitty-gritty details of making sure the content hits all the requirements that are laid out by these different certifying bodies. And there's a whole application and approval process and everything like that. So this is definitely going to be a priority for me to work on this year. I don't know if I'll be able to get it approved by the end of the year, but I'm certainly going to try. And if it doesn't happen to get approval by the end of the year, it will happen in 2026. So really pumped about that possibility. So just know I am working on that. I just don't know the timeline of when exactly it's going to happen, but I am working on it. And I think that would be a really big deal. Now, let me see what else. Oh, one more thing I wanted to add in here in my weekly recap is something that I was thinking about this morning. Was a lot of coaches, including myself, can get in this rut sometimes and be like, I'm not creative. I can't think of anything creative or something that feels like my own, or, some version of that. And what I have noticed in myself, and this goes along with what I mentioned earlier, is that you aren't creative because you're not giving your brain the space to create ideas. I used to tell myself a lot that I wasn't creative. I can't come up with any good ideas. Everything's already been done. And you're right, a lot has been done in 2025, let's be honest. But it's about coming up with your own spin, your own version, your own take on different things, whatever your industry or niche is, but just in a way that is original to you, right? Talking about it in a different way. But I am creative. I come up with good ideas when I have the brain space to be creative. And it's not just about content consumption, but what does your work actually look like? Are you overloaded with one-on-one clients like I used to be? Because when I was still training people on the floor, and I was putting in 20 to 25 floor hours every single week and had my online clients, there was really no space to be creative at all. I wasn't able to have any ideas of like projects or things that I should do or whatever, or I would have an idea and I'd be like, there's no way I have freaking time for that. Like, you know, I'm not gonna be able to do that, you know? But now, because of the way I have my business set up, I do have good ideas. If I do have an idea for a project, I can actually act on it. And a perfect example of that is creating the movement library that I created last fall. If I would still have so many one-on-one clients and be doing so much 4 hours, there's no way I would have been able to put that together. But I have my schedule in a way where I do have that space to create. I do have that space to act on putting together projects and things like that. And I'm so grateful for it because I have had that idea for the library for like 2 years. I just didn't have the space or time or brain function to be able to think of like how to do it. And I'm so happy that I did that because it's so great and coaches are loving it. But anyway, that's just like one example of how if you feel like you're not creative, take inventory of your schedule, of how your work is set up, about how you are structuring your life and saying like, are you giving yourself space to create? Because if you're overly stressed, overly packed schedule, you don't have time off, yeah, no shit why you're not being creative, okay? So anyways, let me think, did anything else go on this week? I don't think anything else like business or anything related I wanted to plug in here. Those are like my big takeaways from the week, a little behind the scenes on what I am working on. And that's going to be it for this episode. So looking forward to chatting with you guys next week for my weekly recap. And I think this will be a really fun and interesting way to document the year, what goes on, what's going on in my brain, because I know every single week is not going to be sunshine and rainbows. So it'll be great. Follow along if you want to stay in the loop with these episodes. Make sure to hit subscribe so that you know when my episodes come out. And so this will be my Friday episode, and then I will have another episode coming out every week, more educational style type of stuff. But I'm trying to give myself some like free space with the podcast and not be super rigid with it, because I don't want to be overly stressed about it. I want it to be a little bit more relaxed, intentional, but a little more relaxed part of my business. And that was a little Murph growl. Okay. I will talk to you guys next time.